Good morning and welcome. It's still breakfast time right here at Plus TV Africa, and this is our Off the Press show, and we talk about all of the headlines in the national dailies. And joining me this morning to discuss all of these and more, I have Dr. Jide Lawson with me in the studio. Thank you very much for joining us. How has been the morning today?
Fine, thank you.
And traffic situation?
Wow.
Story for another day.
Telling you.
Well, let's go into the business of the day, starting with the Punch newspaper now. Boko Haram resurgence, PDP, Serap, CDHR attack Buratai for blaming soldiers. Page 2 has details there. Sack the COAS. Other service chiefs, opposition. Yakazai tells President Buhari. And we see the pictorial here. Suspected robbers and kidnappers arrested in military uniforms by SARS being paraded at the SARS office in Abuja yesterday. And we collected 200 million naira ransom in 6 months, says suspected kidnapper. Page 3 has details, and visa-seeking banker accuses SARS of extortion detention in Lagos. An ex-microfinance bank MD arraigned for fraud. Page 5 has details there, and Otedola sells shares in Forte Oil. 3 arrested as abducted ex-minister's son regains freedom. And son bags life imprisonment for killing father in Akwa Ibom State. Page 4 and 5 have details there. And you have no right to license preachers, court tells Kaduna State government. And going on to the top of the newspaper, federal government to borrow 2.7 billion naira foreign loan this year, and that's according to report from the debt management office. Page 33 has details that talking business, economy still fragile. The Manufacturers Association of Nigeria tells President Buhari Nigeria trapped in low growth path, says Moody's. And Obasanjo should tell Nigerians why he shunned Democracy Day. That's a request from the presidency. Okay, now, Dr. Jide, let's start off with the PDP, Serap, CDHR attacking, and the statement of Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai for blaming the soldiers this time around for the insecurity in the country. And it says that for the lack of commitment, that's why and then the soldiers' indiscipline, that's why we've not had so many successes enough in the fight against insurgency and terrorism on the part of the army. What do you make of this?
Well, I'd like to hope and think that he didn't actually say that.
He said it.
Because if he did, I mean, first of all, it's not good for morale. And the country is really knee-deep in a big fight against Boko Haram and ISWAP. Each week you get reports of bases being attacked, burnt down, and then you now make this kind of comment. Of course, the next time we're going out, the younger guys will go like, this guy doesn't trust us. And then your colleagues would go like, this guy doesn't have what it takes. So a house divided against itself cannot stand.
So would you now say the call for the sack of the Chief of Army Staff is just the next logical thing to be done?
I think his principal needs to call him to order and really interrogate that statement, because that's more than that's a major faux pas on his part.
But if he's already faltered the level of commitment of the soldiers now, how then do we improve on this time around? Because security has been on the front burner. It's a new administration. It's a clean new slate. And defining the course of the next 4 years, we wouldn't want to unnecessarily be marred by high levels of insecurity.
Okay, first thing is, the buck stops at his table. He plays a role in recruitment, motivation, training. And then you come out and say, okay, these guys are not giving enough. They don't have the commitment. What have you? I mean, this should be done in-house, sorted out. And if you feel the guys are not good enough, get rid of them.
Okay. Now, crossing over to ThisDay newspaper, we see the pictorial there. There's a parley with Harvard University professors, business mogul Hakeem Bello Osage and Vice President Yemi Osinbajo with professors from Harvard Business School, United States, during an interactive session at 36 Harvard professors at the Whitbaker Hotel in Lagos on Monday. And President Buhari's assets, senior advocate of Nigeria's nudge Serap to sue CCB, and a fairly others demand rejig of national security architecture, say Buratai's revelation on soldiers' indiscipline on the front lines worrisome. and how presidential veto frustrated electronic transfer of 2019 poll results. Page 6 has details. And going up to the top of the newspaper, IMF salutes Godwin Emefiele on reappointment as CBN governor, and the pictorial there we see Godwin Emefiele as well as Christine Lagarde, the fund's managing director there. And to the back of the newspaper, an article written by Eniola Bello, So Painful, The Goodbye. Okay, now I'd like to also have your reaction as well. The IMF saluting Godwin Emefiele on his reappointment as governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. And they say this is coming at a time where Nigeria is making drastic steps or has the opportunity to redefine the course of development. Our initial projection for the GDP growth rate initially in October last year thereabout was pegged at 2.3%, and we only grew by 2.01% thereabout. So do you think this salute or commendation is fair enough?
When it comes to monetary policy, I think this congratulation from IMF at this point actually celebrates the fact that there's some degree of continuity. So this gentleman has been there. The government has confidence in him to be able to deliver. Of course, there will be projections are supposed to be made, and there may be shortfalls. The idea is to learn from them and then improve on what needs.
Well, the issue so far has been that we've had key challenges of ensuring macroeconomic stability and safeguarding the development of the financial sector, but we've not necessarily been able to do that so well.
Again, the financial sector does not exist in isolation. There are other key factors and key players that influence the outcome of how things will go. Insecurity, for example, as we've just discussed, would definitely influence people that want to bring in investments into the country. A whole section of the country is literally going to be underdeveloped as a consequence of the Boko Haram scourge. So it will play a role in all of this.
And senior advocates of Nigeria are also advising SERAP as well to challenge in court the refusal of the Code of Conduct Bureau to disclose the details of President Muhammadu Buhari's assets. Now, once again, the issue of assets declaration is here. What should be done this time around?
When it comes, I think there should just be one rule, one law, and it should be applicable to everybody. So you're declaring your assets. The whole essence of the asset declaration is to make it public so that we know what has been declared.
Especially in the fight against corruption.
Exactly. So you shouldn't have one set of rules for one set of individuals and another for another batch.
Okay. Now, crossing over to the Nation newspaper, talking security, Southwest governors get wake-up call on security. And multiple riders here, Buhari end violence in Taraba State. And please insist Nigeria is safe. Navy arrests 19, recovers 5 boats, 168 drums of agua, and 2 remanded. Page 5 has details there, the top of the newspaper. State chairman restates support for Oshomole. And 3 held as ex-minister Adewole's son is freed. No Ebola case in Nigeria, says the government on page 8, and insurers need $725 million to recapitalize. And Kola Abiola got it wrong on Tinubu. Page 10 has details there. And players' ailment not serious, says the Nigeria Football Federation. Page 4 to 7, talking sports there. And going on to the back of the newspaper, Buratai's bombshell. That's an editorial notebook written by Benga Omotosho. And justice for all in Kano guerrilla and hardball political adventures. Now, the meeting of the Southwest governors now having a wake-up call on security. Some have said better late than never.
Yes.
But you look at the meeting being held in Osun State, Osogbo to be precise, and the governors are all sitting with the Afenifere group as well to strategize. But in terms of strategizing, do you think these governors still understand how to tackle security? Because at the end of the day, we keep on mapping or following the same strategy and expecting a different response. And also, Afenifere has also earlier made the statement that, well, people within the region have to now take traditional self-defense mechanisms to protect themselves. Now, really, what line of discussion should we be having in terms of regional cooperation this time around?
Well, I don't know if whether you like to acknowledge it or not. Nigeria is facing an existential threat. Now, the Boko Haram, herdsmen, whatever you choose to call it, is gradually moving down south. So, a prominent politician, Chief Olufalaye, was attacked in his farm. There are countless number of cases of individuals being attacked in places like Ondo, Ekiti, Oyo, Osun. So, of course, it's spreading. And if it gets a foothold, then it's going to be the entire country that's going to be involved. So, of course, borrowing a leaf from their colleagues in the northwest, in the northeast and the north central, the southwest governors have decided to come together and nip this thing in the bud before it becomes a major problem, which I think is commendable.
And also, there have been 3 people held so far as former Minister of Health, Isaac Adewole's son, has also regained freedom, has been reunited with his family. Are you impressed with the speed of investigation and having an outcome so far?
I'm actually happy for the minister.
And investigation still continues?
Yes, his son is back. No family, whoever they are, should be subjected to the menace of kidnapping. But I do hope this now ups the ante for them to realize that there is major insecurity within the country. Whoever did this has enough guts to go after the minister's son, then what happens to the regular populace? Okay.
And talking aviation matters now, I missed this one. NTC reports NCAA to answer over threats to demolish telecom towers. Now, the row between the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority as well as the telecoms companies is also getting bigger, and the crux of the matter is the fact that all of these masts that are being erected are not necessarily registered and are affecting aviation operations within the country. Now, and they say they are going to have demolition of 8,805 masts so far of telecommunications and then financial institution towers. Now, really though, this also brings to question, do we always have to wait until things are gotten wrong before the erection of all of those towers or masts or any infrastructure? Due process has to be followed.
Exactly. So your guess is as good as mine. Who gave the permission for this mast to be erected? Because that's a major capital outlay on the side of the telecoms company. And then you now come and say you want to get rid of them. But at the same time, where this mast just recently put up and did they just become a security threat to the airlines?
Well, they gave an initial ultimatum earlier this year. GSM, and upon the expiration of it?
GSM has been in Nigeria since 2002. This is 17 years down the road. So did the masts just suddenly become a problem? So this thing needs to be scrutinized further and investigated for purposes of clarity so that you don't just go and destroy masts and then someone comes back and says, oh, we made a mistake. Okay, and then just taking a quote here, the NTC expects that at the minimum, the NCAA would relate directly with the Commission as the regulator on the matter in the spirit of government interagency collaboration towards some sort of arbitration and resolution. To have chosen to make the matter a media issue suggests some kind of subtle ambush against the operators. Do you think it is an ambush to raise this red flag as well? Because they are calling for some level of set-aside solution, don't make it public. Well, it should be made public because a number of those companies have shareholders, number one. Number two, for the airlines, this is a potential threat for safety. So, and then there's a commission that is in charge of this. And to even correct this trend of having mass directed without having exactly. So, probably this might even make the telecoms, the Ministry of Communication to come out and set out guidelines and tell you, okay, quite expensive for them if all of these must demolished. Yes. Well, moving on now to the Vanguard newspaper, kidnappers on rampage, multiple riders under there. Hunters aid please, military as ex-minister Adewole's abducted son regains freedom. Passenger bus hijacked along East-West Road in Rivers, 14 abducted. Zamfara APC Guber candidate's brother kidnapped by bandits freed.
and bring perpetrators of Taraba killings to book. That, according to the Christian Association of Nigeria, telling security chiefs and President Buhari orders security agencies to end violence in Taraba State. Page 5 has details there. And June 12, Democracy Day, Obasanjo lied, we invited him. Interesting. That's according to the Presidency in page 39. And we also have the pictorial here. That's the PwC Experience Center launch. And we had the Group Managing Director of First Bank, Nigeria Holdings, Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu present as well, representative of the Vice President and Director General of Budget, and the founder, Zenith Bank PLC, and other key stakeholders there at the cutting of the tape ceremony to launch the Experience Center at Victoria Island, Lagos, just yesterday. And in security matters, thugs invade hotel, beat up Oshomale's brother, and other lawmakers elect. How Obaseki, Oshomale's rift divided assembly. Page 42 has details. And 9th National Assembly won't be rubber stamp. That's according to Lawan, Ahmed Lawan. And mayhem in Aja Ojota. 1 killed, scores injured as police arrest 6. And no new Ebola case virus in Nigeria. That's the federal government there making their clear stance in page 13. And we also look at 10 of 169 control, 77.2% of stock market capitalization. And Olusegun once again writes, President Buhari thinks that leadership and a sense of purpose in the wrong direction would produce the right outcome. No, Mr. President, they won't. And E-Daily, why being a business owner sucks. That's according to Kemi Adetiba. And Women's Own, ECOWAS, Nasima speak on opportunities for women in mining and agricultural sectors. And we may register 200 political parties for 2023 elections. INEC cries out. Okay. Now, in all of these, once again, the security situation, we had the Hunters Aid Police to find the individuals who might have helped in the abduction of the former Minister of Health's son, and then the hijack alongside East-West Road in River State. 14 abducted. That's not good. And the APC gubernatorial candidate's brother being released by the bandits. So once again, it just sent a clear message. Nigeria is not safe.
Security, 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 security.
And then moving on now to also, this is quite interesting and tickles my mind a little bit, where INEC says that they might just register 200 political parties for 2023 elections, and they are crying out. But once again, one of the questions that we've raised is the fact that we have to see electoral reforms being made, strong ones.
Yes.
The registration of political parties shouldn't be an easy process. Yes, we understand that they have streamlines and they have procedures and there are certain checks to be made, but it's still just a mess. And looking at what we had within the just concluded elections, even the announcement of the results, you had chancellors of universities calling out 73 names, and we are looking at possibly 200 in 2023.
It's ridiculous, but at the same time, it's a delicate topic. Each of the parties would want to exercise their rights to freedom of association and be able to register a political party. So that you cannot deprive them of. So I think the onus is on INEC and the
beyond crying out, they should push for reforms.
Exactly. Modify, streamline, and make it in such a way that you will only have a manageable number of political parties.
For the lack of time now, I just want your reaction quickly now. The absence of Obasanjo at the Democracy Day celebration. Now, so many have lashed out at him for his absence there, even not having recognized the day when he became president and the entirety of his administration. And they say, well, Obasanjo lied. They invited him. That's according to the presidency.
So now it's a he said, they said kind of thing. So he says, I wasn't invited, and they said, we invited you. So who do we believe?
Well, That's a matter for another day. Thank you very much for speaking with us, Dr. Jide Lawson. And this is where we wrap up today's conversation of Off the Press. And do stay tuned for news in Pidgin. We have plenty more updates.